Right now at noon, after 4 long years, opening statements are underway. They just happened in the Parkland school shooter's penalty trial.
Jurors will decide whether Nikolas Cruz will get life in prison or the death penalty. Local 10 News reporter Alex Finney joins us now live from the courthouse in Fort Lauderdale.
And she tells us what was actually said so far in court today. Alex.
And so, Gio and Christy, it was really difficult to listen to, I do have to say. For as difficult as it might have been for us to hear, imagine those parents and those loved ones having to listen to that opening statement. We heard from lead prosecutor Mike Satz, and I do want to quote what he said there in the very beginning. He said this is a planned, systematic mass murder of 14 children, an athletic director, a teacher, and a coach. He called this a cold, calculated, manipulative, and deadly attack, really just setting up what was his very powerful opening statement there that lasted well over an hour. He really brought the jury back to the day of that massacre. He talked about how Cruz got to the campus that day.
Then there's 12:15,
and the exact time of that massacre. He noted 2:21:33. Cruz fired a weapon at 4 students in the hallway of Marjory Stoneman Douglas shortly after he alerted a student that he saw in the stairwell that something bad was going to happen. And really just a powerful, very touching moment there when the prosecution went moment by moment, shot by shot. And then there was this, reading off all of the victims' names, going victim by victim. A constant that we were hearing as well throughout this opening statement is this Cruz, and also the factors that may have led to what caused him to do this, saying that he was just a really disturbed young man, as was evident in the recordings that he made shortly before that shooting. Satz actually touched on that as well, and I want you to take a listen.
Hello, my name is Nick. I'm going to be the next school shooter of 2018. My goal is at least 20 people with an AR-15 and some tracer rounds. It's going to be a big event, and when you see me on the news, you'll know who I am. You're all going to die. Ah, yeah, I can't wait. Ah, yeah, I can't wait. Cold, calculated, manipulative, and deadly.
And just really such chilling words there. There was a point when our camera panned over actually several times to those that were sitting in the courtroom, to loved ones, parents having to listen to us, to this entire ordeal. So you can imagine the stress and the pain and the anguish that they were going through at that time. And they're going to continue to be going through for several months. I do just want to take a moment here and talk about what we know so far. So Cruz pleaded guilty last October, for many that may remember, to 17 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder, which automatically carries a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole. So here's where we are right now. The penalty case, the penalty part of this trial, that is what we are talking about today. That is what started this morning at 9 a.m. That will determine whether or not Cruz will get life in prison or if he will get the death penalty. We know, as I just mentioned there, the trial is expected to take several months. And before I go here, this is really, really important for our viewers to know. Keep in mind that the jury's decision must be unanimous in order for the death penalty to hold. For now, this is the very latest live in Fort Lauderdale. Alex Finney, Local 10 News.
So much anguish for those poor families. All right, Alex, thank you. And our team coverage does turn now to Local 10 News reporter Christina Vasquez.
She's been inside the courtroom during opening statements so far. Christina, what was it like there?
And I have to tell you, you could really feel the weight of the moment when you're in that courtroom, especially given the amount of family members that are here for some of the Parkland shooting victims. I have been covering all the pretrial hearings. I covered every single day of jury selection. There are some family members that I have not seen before today. Some of them before me, for instance, in the row in front, were the entire family of murder victim Helena Ramsey. And this was difficult for them, especially as the lead prosecutor here, Mike Satz, as he's speaking speaking to the jurors, delivering this opening statement. Again, opening statements are a way for, in this case, since the state was delivering it, for the state to introduce jurors to an overview, right, of the case that they're going to be hearing and trying over the next couple of months. And for the prosecution, that means that they need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt some what are called aggravating factors. It's an important term to learn. You're going to be hearing it a lot over the next couple weeks and months. Think of an aggravating factor, and this is into Florida state statutes. Factors that the state believes will compel a jury to pick death with a more severe sentencing option. And these are things like the way the defendant did these murders was cold, calculated, premeditated. Those are words literally out of Florida state statutes. That it was especially heinous and cruel. So as the lead prosecutor is walking the jurors through the manner in which Nikolas Cruz, then 19, arrives at the school in an Uber, he explains the AR-style gun, but it's really the moment as he's going hallway by hallway, right? He's taking the jurors through the facts of the case. And he's doing this in a way to also, again, really speak to this cold, calculated way that he intended to shoot these people, that he planned on doing it. He even talks at one point about how after he kills somebody, he kneels down, he takes off his vest, he puts on, he has his tactical vest with even more ammunition. Those were the moments where family members of the Parkland shooting victims in that courtroom, you can sense were feeling it the most. Gina Montalvo's dad, I mean, the second Mike Satz says her name, says her age and how many times he's shot, he just literally closes his eyes and takes a deep breath. For some of these parents, they've really become activists over the years, right? These are facts of a case that they know very well. They have spent more than 4 years living in this suspended grief, some of them being, as many of you know, very vocal and becoming gun control advocates. But when I was in that courtroom, I realized that for them, even though as much as some of them have been so public, speaking about the death and loss of their loved ones, to be here, opening statements, the trial getting underway, a sworn-in jury listening to the state. It's a recognition that all these years later, that final chapter, as the father of one murder victim once said, is now underway. Helena's family before me, again, as they're going through those details, and by they I mean lead prosecutor Mike Satz, the mom actually had to leave the courtroom. I mean, she just had to get up and walk away. Some family members just kind of trying to hold themselves together. I did get a chance to briefly speak with them, and they just said they wanted to have the courage to be there for her today. And what was also interesting to see were the jury members themselves. So there are 12 jurors, right? 7 men, 5 women. These are the folks that will be making this ultimate determination of whether Nikolas Cruz gets life or death. There's also 10 alternates. And what the judge has decided to do is she sat them all together in the jury box. They're actually in alphabetical order. The judge had indicated in a previous hearing she wanted to do that way so they wouldn't know which one's a juror, which one's an alternate, all of them would be paying attention. And so where I'm sitting in the courtroom is sort of, I have a straight view of that entire jury box. And especially as the lead prosecutor, Mike Satz, really begins to drill down into these sometimes almost granular details. It felt like he really wanted them to know what exact time the shooting, how many exact casings they found at each place. As he's building that out, there's a couple of those jurors that they began to really note take. And so there was these 2 moments sort of happening, like in front of me and to the right of me, you're feeling, when I call it the weight of the moment, I mean, you're feeling that grief and you're feeling the pain and you're feeling a little bit of that release of, oh my gosh, it's been more than 4 years and this trial is finally underway. And then on the other side of me, you can see some of these jurors really paying attention. I mean, leaning in, diligent. 2 of the jurors that caught my eye the most is one of them is a Broward County library worker. I mean, she was really taking that time, and you could tell processing, thinking, and writing it down. The other one that was a big note taker is the one juror we told you about, that she's a compliance office supervisor for a medical device company. And that's a little interesting, because if you think of that kind of work, being a compliance supervisor for a medical device company means she spends her world in, like, what are the facts, what are the data, does everything align? And so it was interesting knowing her occupation, seeing her be probably one of the biggest note takers. But that's where we are right now. The defense always has an option of either delivering its opening statement right after the state, or they could decide to do it after the state presents what's called its case in chief, which is like essentially the state says we arrest, and then the defense could choose at that moment to deliver its opening statement. It looks like that's what the defense has decided to do. They've reserved their right to hold off on delivering their opening statement right now, and so court is in recess for this next hour, and then when they return, we'll be getting right into trial testimony. And these jurors, really, they have such a unique place in U.S. history. As we were talking about a little bit earlier, according to FBI's active shooter incidents information, not many mass shooters to this scale actually make it to trial. And so the jurors here will be tasked with, starts this afternoon with the state. They're first going to be listening to evidence about those aggravating factors. You're thinking cold, calculated, premeditated, heinous, cruel, atrocious. Those are just some of them. And then after that happens, they will hear from the defense, right? And the defense is going to have evidence of what are called mitigating circumstances. This is information they think may compel a juror to not choose death, to choose life instead. Evidence within that is likely to be about his childhood and his background, the age at which he committed this crime. The Mike Satz, the lead prosecutor in opening, already addressing that, like right off the bat as he's kind of halfway through his delivery, saying, the evidence we're going to show you, you're going to find that it's going to outweigh anything you hear about this man's background. So there we are. We are on our way. Back to you.
All right, Christina, thank you for breaking all that down for us. We appreciate it. We want to get right over to Local 10 News reporter Janine Stanwood as well.
She has more on the opening statements today with legal analyst David Weinstein, and you guys have been on this all morning long. It's been a lot to take in.
It's been a lot to take in, and all I can say is, wow, David, because you have Christina, who's in the courtroom, who's there as these family members are crying. They're listening to Mike Satz's opening statement. We're here in the studio, and we paid attention because he delivered every single detail: ages, caliber weapon, what happened to these victims, no notes, and it was very powerful.
A supreme mastery of the facts of this case, and that's very important to make that first impression. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and jurors watch everything we do in the courtroom. And for Mr. Satz to stand up in front of them and have such a command of the names of the victims, how many shots were fired, where the defendant entered, what he did when he was there, the number of bullets, the caliber, that has to have an impact on these people. And then the impact on the next of kin and the victims of this horrible crime, to just have to sit in the courtroom, not only with the defendant, but to relive this again and hear what the picture was that the prosecution was painting, that the jurors are now going to have to listen to. The emotions have to be overwhelming for these people and for the jurors too, because they see what's going on out in the audience. They see what these people are going through, and the humanization of what's taking place here and the state's ability to present these factors and show how in their mind the only sentence that's appropriate is death is going to be on the mind of these jurors as they start to listen to the evidence.
Now, these jurors cannot speak with each other about this case. They can't speak to anyone else. They can't use social media. But that's very hard in this day and age where you turn on your phone and you get some sort of news alert. So this is going to be a challenge.
It's going to be tough, and we talked about this before. The judge told these jurors, I want you to turn off your phones when you come into the courtroom, because I don't want you being bothered. I don't want people asking you questions. I don't want people communicating with you. But you know what? When you turn on your phone, you're going to get a notification. And if you haven't silenced those notifications, you're going to start to get flooded with every tweet, with every breaking news, with everything else. So it's going to be tough for these jurors to listen to the instructions and not pay attention to that, because what they need to do is focus on what they're going to hear in the courtroom, and that's what they're going to have to deliberate about.
Well, we'll be listening. We'll be focusing as well. Gets back at 1:15. We'll send it back to you, and we'll, of course, be watching Gavel to Gavel online on local10.com.
We will indeed. Thank you. And we are going to continue our live special coverage throughout the day on the Parkland school shooter penalty phase trial. We'll be streaming coverage on our digital platforms as well, including our website, local10.com, our Facebook page, and our YouTube channel, too.